Hare Krishna Manhar, Hare Krishna Arav, Hare Krishna Sia, Tarni Radha, Hare Krishna Madhav, Hare Krishna Arishi, Saki Vrinda, Hare Krishna Vivan and Parth. Nice to see you all. As usual with you, Cham, we're going to get started with our prayer. Uh, the way it works is that we nominate someone to give the prayer, and if that's seconded, we ask them to give the prayer. Anyone would like to give the prayer today? Before we get started, you can put it in the chat, your nominations, um, and your seconds. Let's see, we got something. We got a nomination from Manhar. Does anyone want to second it? Tarni Radha seconds it. Okay, and the floor is yours, Manhar. I'll send the format in the chat.
Dear Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Natpur, if you so desire, please make this UJAM really enlightening for everyone, and please consider our humble request.
Thank you, Manhar. That was wonderful. Thank you for setting the mood today. So we're gonna get started as usual with our chapter a day. We're still on the 11th chapter from verses 23 to 55. And so we're gonna do translations together. So if you would like to read 5 translations, please raise your hand and we'll just go in order. Does anyone want to get us started? Okay, Arav, you can get us started. Let me screen share. Here you go.
Almighty armed one, all the planets with their demigods are disturbed at seeing your great form, with its many faces, eyes, arms, thighs, legs and bellies, and your many terrible teeth. And as they are disturbed, so am I. O all-pervading Vishnu, seeing you with your many radiant colors touching the sky, your gaping mouths, and your great glowing eyes, my mind is perturbed by fear. I can no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind. O Lord of Lords, O refuge of the worlds, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance seeing thus your blazing death-like faces and awful teeth. In all directions I am bewildered. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings, and Bhishma, Drona, and Karna, and our chief soldiers also, are rushing into your fearful mounts. And some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. As the many waves of the rivers flow into the ocean, so do all the great warriors enter blazing into your mounts.
I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths, as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people from all sides with your flaming mouths. Covering all the universe with your effulgence, you are manifest with terrible scorching rays. O Lord of Lords, so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. You are the primal Lord. I want to know about you, for I do not know what your mission is. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people, with the exception of you, the Pandavas, and all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. Therefore get up, prepare to fight and win glory, conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Savyasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight.
Drona, Bhishma, Jayarata, Karna, and other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore, kill them and do not be disturbed. Simply fight, and you will vanquish your enemies in battle. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, O king, after hearing these words from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the trembling Arjuna offered obeisances with folding hands again and again. He fearfully spoke to Lord Krishna in a faltering voice as follows. Arjuna said, O master of the senses, the world becomes joyful upon hearing your name, and thus everyone becomes attached to you. Although the perfected beings offer you their respectful homage, the demons are afraid, and they flee here and there. All this is rightly done. O Great One, greater than even Brahma, you are the original creator. Why then should they not offer their respectful obeisances unto you? O limitless One, God of gods, refuge of the universe. You are the invincible source, the cause of all causes, transcendental to this material manifestation. You are the original personality of Godhead, the oldest, the ultimate sanctuary of this manifested cosmic world. You are the knower of everything, and you are all that is knowable. You are the supreme refuge above all the material modes. O limitless form, this whole cosmic manifestation is pervaded by you.
Anyone else like to continue the reading? Feel free to raise your hand. I'll do the next 5. You are air, and you are the supreme controller. You are fire, you are water, and you are the moon. You are Brahma, the first living creature, and you are the great grandfather. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you 1,000 times, and again and yet again. Obeisances to you from the front, from behind, and from all sides. O unbounded power, you are the master of limitless might. You are all pervading, and thus you are everything. Thinking of you as my friend, I have rashly addressed you. O Krishna, O Yadava, O my friend, not knowing your glories. Please forgive whatever I may have done in madness or in love. I have dishonored you many times, jesting as we relaxed, lay on the same bed, or sat or ate together, sometimes alone and sometimes in front of many friends. O infallible one, please excuse me for all those offenses. You are the father of this complete cosmic manifestation of the moving and the non-moving. You're its worshipable chief, the supreme spiritual master. No one is greater than you, nor can anyone be with you. How then could there be anyone greater than you within the 3 worlds, O Lord of immeasurable power? Arav?
You are the Supreme Lord, to be worshipped by every living being. Thus I fall down to offer you my respectful obeisances, and ask your mercy. As a father tolerates the impudence of his son, a friend the impertinence of a friend, or a husband the familiarity of his wife, please tolerate the wrongs I may have done to you. After seeing this universal form, which I have never seen before, I am gladdened, but at the same time my mind is disturbed with fear. Therefore, please bestow your grace upon me and reveal again your form as the personality of Godhead, O Lord of Lords, O abode of the universe. O universal form, O thousand-armed Lord, I wish to see you in your 4-armed form, with helmeted head and with club, wheel, conch, and lotus flower in your hands. I long to see you in that form. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, happily have I shown you by my internal potency this supreme universal form within the material world. No one before you has ever seen this primal form, unlimited and full of glaring effulgence. O best of the Kuru warriors, no one before you has ever seen this universal form of mine. For neither by studying the Vedas, nor by performing sacrifices, nor by charity, nor by pious activities, nor by severe penances can I be seen in this form in the material world.
You have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free again from all disturbances. With peaceful mind you can now see the form you desire. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, having spoken thus to Arjuna, displayed his real 4-armed form, and at last showed his 2-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. When Arjuna thus saw Krishna in his original form, he said, O Janardana, Seeing this human-like form, so very beautiful, I am now composed in my mind, and I restore to my original nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form, which is so dear. The form you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am.
My dear Arjuna, only by sorry, Sia, you can go ahead. Sorry, I missed your hand.
Sorry. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculations, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me.
Thank you everyone for participating in that reading. That was wonderful. Now that we've completed our chat, we like to study a little bit more with looking into one of the verses. Uh, let's see who we have. Vrinda, do you want to pick a verse for today from the ones we read that you want to read the purport of?
Sure.
You share a number if you don't.
Okay, I guess 45.
45? Okay. Would you like to read
Yeah, sure.
the verse, synonyms, translation, and purport?
Oh, synonyms, translation. Yeah, okay. Adrishta purvam, never seen before. Hishita, gladdened. Asmi, I am. Drishtva, by seeing. Bhayena, out of fear. Cha, also. Prav, pravyatitham, perturbed. Mana, mind. Me, my. Tat, that. Eva, certainly. Me, unto me. Darshaya, show. Deva, O Lord. Rupam, the form. Prasida, just be gracious. Deva Isha, O Lord of the Lords. Jagat Nivasa, O refugee of the universe. Translation. After seeing this universal form, which I have never seen before, I am gladdened, but at the same time my mind is disturbed with fear. Therefore, please bestow your grace upon me and reveal again your form as the personality of Godhead, O Lord of Lords, O abode of the universe. Purport. Arjuna is always in confidence with Krishna because he is a very dear friend. And as a dear friend is gladdened by his friend's opulence, Arjuna is very joyful to see that his friend Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and can show such a wonderful universal form. But at the same time, after seeing that universal form, he is afraid that he has committed so many offenses to Krishna out of his unalloyed friendship. Thus his mind is disturbed out of fear, although he had no reason to fear. Arjuna therefore is asking Krishna to show his Narayana form because he can assume any form. This universal form is material and temporary, as the material world is temporary. But in the Vaikuntha planets, he has his transcendental form with 4 hands as Narayana. There are innumerable planets in the spiritual sky, and in each of them Krishna is present by his plenary manifestations of different names. Thus Arjuna desired to see one of the forms manifest in the Vaikuntha planets. Of course, in each Vaikuntha planet, the form of Narayana is 4-handed. But the 4 hands hold different arrangements of symbols: the conch shell, mace, lotus, and disc. According to the different hands these 4 things are held in, the Narayanas are variously named. All of these forms are one with Krishna. Therefore, Arjuna requests to see his 4-handed feature.
You want to give us a quick commentary on what we just read over here?
So basically, Arjuna, after Krishna shows his universal form, Arjuna is very happy to see his friend that he is like really opulent, and because it says that like as a dear friend is gladdened by his friend's opulence, Arjuna is also, and but at the same time he's also fearful because he has committed like unknowingly so many like offenses because of his like friendship, and that's why his mind is kind of perturbed. And um, it also talks, the Prabhupada says that this universal form is material and temporary, as the material world is temporary. But in the Vaikuntha planets, he is eternally manifest as there. And Arjuna basically saw one of the forms that were manifest in the Vaikuntha planets. And yeah, I guess.
Thank you, Brenda. That was stellar. That was so awesome, and you gave a lot of insight into what we just read over here. There's some hands raised. Is Thea, and you want to add anything?
I think I accidentally raised my hand, sorry.
Okay, then Parth and Vivan.
So, this is Parth. I didn't really want
Yes.
to add anything. I had just a question based on the purport and the verses that we read in the 11th chapter.
Hmm.
So my question was that it talks about Arjuna being like sad, that not sad, but like is apologetic because he has eaten with Krishna, slept in the same bed as Krishna, and so on and so forth. But after the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, Ar- Krishna was still Arjuna's charioteer. And I don't understand that if Arjuna understood all of this, why would he still make Krishna be his charioteer?
That's a very interesting
If it's
question.
the lower person than the person fighting.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I don't have a direct answer to you, Parth, on that. I can try to get back to you, but eh, in the principle behind what might answer your question is Krishna had already taken this role for Arjuna beforehand, and the whole point of the Bhagavad Gita, or one of the points of the Bhagavad Gita, was to ensure that Arjuna went on with the fight. And so to go on to do his duty, that would be to accept Krishna as his charioteer, as was already, determined and so on. And so Arjuna's mind was focused on serving Krishna by fighting, not by not serving him necessarily like let's stop. I'll stop the war. Let's go to the forest. I'll worship you as a servant. Krishna wanted him to fight. So in the process of following Krishna and serving him, his duty was actually to fight and accept Krishna's service as his charioteer. So that's one principle that I would think would apply to what you're asking. But again, I don't have like a direct answer where it's like mentioned specifically that this is why Arjuna continued on in that same way.
Yeah, like it
Is
doesn't
that
say in yeah, like it doesn't say in the Bhagavad Gita anywhere that talks about that point. But that
Yeah,
helps
yeah.
a lot.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
thank
glad,
you.
Parth. Thank you. Any other reflections from this purport that we have over here? Any other thoughts? I like what Vrinda said about how Arjuna is like both gladdened and also fearful of the same Krishna in just different forms. It's a very interesting or fascinating like pastime that we're observing over here. So this lot is it's a very unique chapter because like so much is happening. There's a lot of action in this chapter compared to the other chapters of Bhagavad Gita, and so the drama of his emotions is very fascinating to read. Tarani Radha, yes.
Hare Krishna. I'm just intrigued by where it says that this universal form is material and temporary, as the material world is temporary. And I'm just intrigued by that because like we know that Krishna is not temporary, and this is technically like a form of him. So I'm open to I'm open to different interpretations, but what I'm like taking out of this is that it's temporary in the sense that since our this universe is temporary and this is the universal form, it's like the universal form for our universe and not all the universes in the material world, so that's why it's considered temporary and material, unlike Krishna's other forms, which are not temporary and material because they are not just for our universe. They can appear in any universe. If that's just my interpretation, and I'd like to hear anyone else's thoughts about that.
Thank you, Tarnyarada, for sharing. Does anyone else want to share any thoughts on that? Let's see, Arav, you want to share something? You're licking your
Hare
lips.
Krishna. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was seeing in the purport that same similar thing. This universal form is material and temporary, as the material world is temporary. Yeah, I feel like that connected pretty well because the that form is linked with the material world itself, is what Srila Prabhupada is saying here. So I feel that was a really nice point.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what's going on over here because the universal form is displaying the universe and it's like the personified universe almost. But that universe itself is temporary, but Krishna behind it, of course, isn't. He's eternal, and that's what Arjuna wishes to see. Uh, Vivan, did you have your hand up or okay? Yes, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, everyone. This is Vivon. So I didn't have anything to add to the other reflection, but I had one other question. So one was Krishna says that Drona, Bhishma, and Jayadratha are already killed in the verse, and he says that Arjuna is just merely a instrument in the service of this. So he tells Arjuna to fight. And using that, how can we be sure that the jiva has free will to do things, even though everything's already written?
What Krishna is really saying is that their death is predetermined, but it's not like Arjuna is predetermined in the sense. He's still asking Arjuna to fight because Arjuna is merely an instrument. It's not like if he doesn't fight, they don't die. That's the point that Krishna is trying to make. That he's actually not in control of their lives like he thinks he is. Krishna is actually in control of their lifespan. And so Arjuna is just doing his duty and allowing the world to move along in that way. Does that answer the question, Ivan?
Yeah, but like whenever Krishna says that their lives are already like he already is they're already all dead, doesn't that already mean that it's already written that they're all dead and Krishna's actually in control of their lives? And how does that relate to Arjuna having free will?
So in the Bhagavatam, what it says is that our lifespans are generally already predetermined based on our karma, and so there is an end to our life that's already written down. We don't know what it is, and so that's what Krishna is referring to over there. And what he's telling Arjuna is that Arjuna is under the impression that if he doesn't fight, they won't die and that they won't and then everyone will be happy, everyone will be peaceful and alive. But Krishna is trying to remind him, Arjuna, that you're not in control. You don't have you're not in control of their lives like you think you are. Whether you choose to fight or not, their death is coming. And so you're merely an instrument, so you should just do your duty and continue in that way. And so Arjuna's free will is not hindered in that way, and nor are Jayadratha's or any of those warriors that are meant to die. They're mutually exclusive.
Got you. So let's say if we try to relate this to our lives, like if everything or most of the things are already written down, then how can we be sure that we have free will as well?
So we always have free will in many different ways. One of the most is, I guess, simple ways we can appreciate our free will is whether we choose Krishna or not, because he doesn't force us at all. And so our choice to, worship him, to serve him, is one example of our free will. In terms of things that are predetermined, it's a little tricky because that's based on karma. So, like, for example, one might say, oh, but like my birth in the United States was predetermined. But like it really wasn't because you had some karma that made you come here or some kind of past actions that led to this. And so in the same way, your lifespan, even though it seems predetermined, it really isn't. It's based on that karma. The lifespan of certain individuals is much longer compared to others.
Got you. Thank you. That really helps.
Thank you, Vivan, for that question. That's very important. Uh, Vrinda, I think were you next with your hand? Oh, you took okay, you took it down. Okay, Arav.
Hare Krishna, I just wanted to say one thing about that. Also, in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna does tell Arjuna, he says, "Now I've explained all this knowledge to you. You have a choice. Think about it deliberately, and then you have a choice." So that's just one thing I found.
Thank you, Arav. That's a wonderful citation right there. Tarni.
So I just wanted to like add or like kind of answer Vivant's question, like what I was just thinking about. So I've also had like a similar question just for a while. Like sometimes our karma from like previous lives predisposes us to something else that compels us to do something that will acquire bad karma, for example, right? So like I was like, for example, like one question I used to have was Ravan, whatever his previous karma was, compelled him, I mean, got him to become like Ravan, and like he took birth in a demon family. So then that means he was, and also his birth was like in a inauspicious time. So he was like predisposed to be evil. So I was like, so then how is it his, like obviously I'm not saying he shouldn't have any bad reactions, but I was like wondering like how would it be his fault that he like did evil things because like he was predisposed by the stars and all of that. But what you said and also Vivant's question, it kind of like clarified things for me that like whatever you're predisposed to is obviously because of your own karma, and then whatever you're compelled to do because of like actions that are happening like or circumstances that you get into because of your karma, whatever you're compelled to do in that situation is not because of it's not like you don't have free will. It's just like what choice you make in the moment is it's your own choice. So like if I could like if I get into a car crash or like if I get into a very fatal incident that like and I somehow survive, I could either choose to blame Bhagwan and like be like, Krishna, why would you do this to me? I'm literally I was like born into ISKCON and I've been worshiping you my entire life. How could you do this to me? Or I could and then I could like start like thinking ill of Bhagwan, or I could decide to like go the other route and be like, thank you, Bhagwan. I'm burning off my own karma, and you saved me instead of dying. You instead of like having a fatal injury that would like paralyze me or whatever, you let me survive with just a few minor injuries. So I just realized that it's your reaction that so like your reaction isn't predisposed, it's your own free choice. It was the word free will. You get like whatever you react in that situation is your own free will, and so that's how you have your own free will no matter what the circumstances are.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tarni. Thank you for sharing that example as well. That was very helpful. Arushi?
I just wanted to emphasize what Tharani said. I really liked when she said that there is certain things that you're predisposed to, but your actions and how you react to them can really change. Like instead of blaming, you could always see it as a way to learn. And personally, I feel like it's really hard for me because as humans, we always try to find the negative in things. But I guess if we just practice like positive things and not blaming it on other people, it can really help us make better choices as well.
Yeah, both of you brought up a really important point there. Like I also like personally struggle with that too, where it's like almost like a victim mentality mindset. And I think it can get hard sometimes to really see through it because those predispositions can seem really horrible, or situations can be horrible sometimes. And so it's very tricky to get through that. And I found a lot of help instead of, like there, of course, to some level we can practice ourselves, but if it starts to kind of feel overbearing, then I found it very helpful to speak to mentors in those situations where it's like there's a little bit more context or guidance that you can receive that's more personalized to you. And so that also helps when trying to overcome a situation like that. Thank you both for sharing so much on this. This is a very interesting topic for sure. And I spent a lot of time when I was very young with thinking about this. I'm glad this is getting brought up over here. Any other thoughts from the purport from our chapter today? All right, then let's move on to the next part, which will be our Prabhupada reading. And so we left off, we're still in chapter 17. We're close to the end. We don't have um, a lot of us today, so I think maybe we can do, you can feel free to read multiple times. But before that, I think I recognize a new devotee here, Chaitanya Bhava, or is recently initiated, who's coming for a long time. Do you want to introduce yourself? If it's convenient for you. Oh, I think he might have disconnected. Okay, no worries. We'll move on then to the Prabhupada Lamrita reading. So feel free to raise your hand. Let's read 3 paragraphs each, and we'll continue reading for maybe till 3:55, so around 20 minutes. Keshav, you can get us started.
Okay. Carl felt that the creative group who came to see the Swami in the studio were all quick to enter into the mood of the kirtana, but they were using it in their own ways to supplement their own private visions and ecstasies, with no real intentions of adopting the disciplines or the undivided worship of Lord Krishna. Prabhupada was the first real contact with a spiritual person, and yet, even without trying to understand, they became absorbed in his kirtans and in what he had to say. Carl would invite them. Hey, come on, this is genuine, this is real, you'll like it, it's music, it's dance, it's celebration. Carl saw that people just felt good being in the Swami's presence and meditating on the chanting and eating the Swami's cooking. It was like anything they had experienced before, except for their moments of creative insight. Yet for Carl and Eva, Prabhupada's simple presence created difficulty. Never before his whole stay in America had he been a more inconvenient or unwanted guest. Carl's studio was arranged for him and his wife to live in alone, using the bedroom, kitchen, and living room any way they liked. If they wanted to smoke marijuana or eat meat or whatever, that was their prerogative. This was Carl's home. He lived here with his wife, Ava, and their dogs and cats. But now they had to share with the Swami. Can you scroll? Almost at once, the situation became intolerable for Ava. She resented the Swami's presence in her home. She was a feminist, a liberated white woman with a black husband and a good job. She didn't like the Swami's views on women. She hadn't read his books or attended his classes, but he had heard that he was opposed to sexual intercourse except for conceiving children, and that in his view a woman was supposed to be shy and chaste and help her husband in spiritual life. She knew about the Swami's 4 rules: no meeting, illicit sex, intoxication, or gambling. And she definitely did not want Carl's Swami trying to change their ways to suit his, and he had better not expect her to wait on him as a servant. She sensed the Swami objecting to almost everything she did. If she were to seek his advice, he would probably ask her to stop taking drugs, get rid of the cats and dogs, stop drinking, and stop contraceptive sex. If the Swami had his way, they would probably only eat at certain times and only certain foods. Ava was a certain heavy smoker, so he probably wouldn't like being around her. She was ready for a confrontation.
But Prabhupada was not one to make intolerant demands while living in another's home. He kept to his allotted corner of the loft, and he made no demands or criticisms. Hadn't he seen his hosts and butler eating meat and only remarked, "Think nothing of it"? Nevertheless, his imposing spiritual presence made Eva sorry Carl had never ever met him. To Eva, the Swami was an inimical force, and she, being candid and independent, let him know. As soon as he asked whether he could bring him something, she replied, "Get it yourself." Carol Beaker saw the situation as being extremely uncomfortable and tense. Eva was quite resentful. Eva complained to the Carol. Here she was paying rent for the loft, working hard, and this man was trying to change their way of life. Carol. Eva couldn't handle his teachings, and she couldn't handle his influence over Carl. She didn't feel so constrained, but she felt that the Swamiji was making Carl feel constrained.
This was Eva's main objection. The Swami was influencing Carl. Her relationship with Carl had only recently begun, and Carl was aware that she needed much of his time. He agreed with his wife, yet he couldn't refuse the Swami. He was interested in Indian music, poetry, and religions, and here was a living authority, vastly knowledgeable in all facets of Indian culture, right in his home. Prabhupada would cook his meals in their kitchen, and right away Carl would be there, eager to learn the art of Indian cuisine. Carl also wanted the Swami to show him how to play the drum. They would have long talks together. Carl, Carl. Carl was trying to be something he really wasn't, but he would never have suggested that the Swami had to leave. Swami, I am sure, was astute enough to pick up on this tension. As soon as he could, he tried to move to another place. Gradually, Carl reached an impasse in his relationship with Prabhupada. He couldn't share his life with both his wife and the Swami, and ultimately he was more inclined towards his wife.
Carl. I couldn't see my loft becoming a temple. I was raising cats and dogs, and he wanted them removed. He used to call me a meat eater, but then he changed our diet. Of course, he was hitting the American culture, which doesn't know what all the business is. I have to put it on myself as much as anyone. I could understand and absorb India through an impersonal agency, like a book or a record. But here was the living representative of Godhead, and to me, it was as difficult as anything I've ever had to do before or since. Prabhupada was not insensitive to the distress his presence was causing. He didn't want to inconvenience anyone, and of course, he would have avoided all inconveniences, both for himself and for people like Eva, if he had never come to America. But he wasn't concerned with convenience or inconvenience, pleasing Eva or displeasing her. He wanted to teach Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada had a mission, and Karl's loft didn't seem to be the right base for it. Prabhupada's friends all agreed he should move into the center of things. He should move more into the center of things. The Bowery and Chinatown were too far out of the way. They would find him a new place. Forced by conditions, he accepted Krishna's mercy. Prabhupada Forced by conditions, he accepted as Krishna's mercy. Prabhupada sat patiently, trying not to disturb anyone, yet speaking about Krishna consciousness day and night. Carl assured him that with half a dozen people searching, it wouldn't take long to find a new place, and they would all chip in together and help him with the rent.
A week passed and no one had found a suitable place for the Swami. One day, Prabhupada suggested that he and Carl take a walk up to Michael Grant's place and ask him to help. Mike, I was awakened one morning very early, and Carl was on the phone saying, Swamiji and I were just taking a walk, and we thought we'd come up and see you. I said, but it's too early in the morning. And he said, well, Swamiji wants to see you. They were very nearby, just down the street, so I had to quickly get dressed, and by the time I got to the door, they were there. I was totally unprepared but invited them up. The television had been on from the previous night, and there were some cartoons on. The Swami sat between Carl and me on the couch. I was keeping a pet cat, and the cat jumped up on Swamiji's lap, and he abruptly knocked it off on the floor. We began to talk, but Swamiji glanced over at the cartoons on the television set and said, This is nonsense. Suddenly, I realized that the television was on, that it was nonsense. I got up very quickly, saying, Why, yes, it is nonsense, and turned it off.
As Prabhupada talked, he tried to impress on Mike how difficult it was for him to live with Carl and Eva, and Mike listened. But the Swami was so sure he couldn't go back to the Bowery loft and live with David Allen. Except for that one incident, it had been a nice setup, hadn't it? Prabhupada explained that David had become a madman from too much LSD. He was dangerous. Mike gave the Swami a half incredulous look. David Allen, dangerous? Prabhupada then told a story. There is an old saying in India that you get yourself a spiritual master, you sit opposite him. You learn everything from him that you can, then you kill him, you move his body to one side, and then you sit in his place and you become the guru. As Prabhupada spoke, Mike began to feel that David was dangerous, so he didn't ask for any more details. Mike could see that the Swamiji was appealing to him for help, and as they all sat together on the couch, Mike and Carl quietly nodded in agreement. The Swamiji was looking at Mike, and Mike was trying to think. So how can we help Swamiji? Carl interjected. Mike explained that he was a pianist, and he had to practice every day. He had 2 pianos, 2 sets of drums, a vibraphone, and other instruments right there in his apartment. Musicians were always coming over to practice, and they all played their instruments for hours. Also, he was living with a girl, and there was a cat in the apartment. But Mike promised that he would help find the Swami a new place. Prabhupada thanked him, and along with Carl stood to leave. Mike felt obligated. He was good at getting things done, and he wanted to do this for the Swami. So the next day he went to the Village Voice, got the first newspaper off the press, looked through the classified ads until he found a suitable prospect, and phoned the landlord. It was a storefront on 2nd Avenue, and an agent, a Mr. Gardiner, agreed to meet Mike there. Carl and the Swami also agreed to come. Mr. Gardner and Mike were the first to arrive. Mike noted that the unusual hand-painted sign, "Matchless Gifts," above the front window. It was a holdover, Mr. Gardner explained, from when the place had been a nostalgic gift shop. Mike proceeded to describe the Swami as a spiritual leader from India, an important author, and a Sanskrit scholar. The rental agent seemed receptive. As soon as Prabhupada and Carl arrived and everyone had been congenially introduced, Mr. Gardiner showed them the small storefront. Prabhupada, Carl, and Mike carefully considered its possibilities. It was empty, plain, and dark. The electricity had not been turned on, and it needed repainting. It would be good for meetings, but not for the Swami's residence. But at $125 a month, it seemed promising. Then Mr. Gardner revealed a small second-floor apartment just across the rear courtyard, directly behind the storefront. Another $75 a month, and the Swami could live there, although Mr. Gardner would have to repaint it. The total rent would come to $196, and Carl, Mike, and the others would pitch in.
Prabhupada had the idea of making Mr. Gardner the first official trustee of his fledgling Krishna Consciousness Society. During their conversation, he presented Mr. Gardner with a 3-volume set of his Srimad Bhagavatam, and inside the front cover he wrote a personal dedication and then signed it, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Mr. Gardner left, flattered and honored, to receive these books from their author himself. He agrees to become a trustee of the new Society for Krishna Consciousness. And so the society 20 and so pay the society $20 a month. Mr. Gardner took a week to paint the apartment. Meanwhile, Mike arranged for electricity and water to be turned on and had a phone installed. And he and Carl raised the first month's rent among their friends. When everything was ready, Mike gave Prabhupada a call at Carl's. Now it was time to move the Swami into his new place. A few friends who were on hand accompanied the Swami over to the Bowery lot. Maybe they weren't prepared to become his surrendered disciples, but contributing towards the first month's rent and volunteering a few hours to work to help set up his place were exactly the kinds of things they could do very willingly.
At the loft, they all gathered up portions of the Swami's belongings, and then they started out on foot up Bowery. It was like a safari, a caravan of half a dozen men loaded with Prabhupada's things. Michael carried the heavy Robert's reel to reel, and even the Swami carried 2 suitcases. They did everything so quickly that it wasn't until they were well on their way and their Mike's arm began to ache that he realized, why didn't we bring a car? It was the end of June, and the hazy summer sun poured its heat down into the Bowery jungle. Starting and stopping in the strange safari, stretching for over a block, slowly trekked along. Prabhupada struggled with his suitcases past a seemingly unending row of restaurant supply shops and lamp stores between Grand, Broome, and Spring Streets. Sometimes he paused and rested, setting his suitcases down. He was finally moving from the Bowery. His electrician friend on 72nd Street would have been relieved, although perhaps he would have disapproved of the Second Avenue address also. At least he was finished residing at Skid Row. He walked on, past the homeless men by outside the Salvation Army shelter, past the open door taverns, stopping at streetlights, standing alongside total strangers, keeping an eye out on the progress of his procession of friends who struggled along behind him. The Bowery artists and musicians saw him as highly evolved. They felt that the spirit was moving with him and were eager to help him set up his own place so that he could do his valuable spiritual thing and spread it to others. He was dependent on them for help, yet they knew that he was on a higher level. He was his own protector, or as he said, God protected him.
The Swami and his young friends reached the corner of Bowery and Houston, turned right, and proceeded east. Gazing steadily ahead as he walked, Prabhupada saw the southern end of Second Avenue, 1 block away. At Second Avenue, he would turn left, walk just 1 block north across First Street, and arrive at his new home. As he passed the I&D subway entrance, the storefront came into view, matchless gifts. He gripped his suitcases and moved ahead. At Second Avenue in Houston, he hurried through a break in the rapid traffic. He could see green trees holding their heads above the high courtyard wall, reaching up like overgrown weeds in the space between the front and rear buildings of his new address. The street-side building housed his meeting hall, the rear building the apartment where he would live and translate. Adjoining the storefront building on its north side was a massive 9-story warehouse. The storefront structure was only 6 stories and seemed appended on appended to the larger building like its diminutive child. On its southern side, Prabhupada's new temple showed a surface of plain cement and was free of any adjoining structure. There was only the spacious lot of the busy mobile service station that bordered on First Street. As Prabhupada approached the storefront, he could see 2 small lanterns decorating the narrow doorway. There was no certainty of what awaited him here, but already there had been good signs that these American young people, mad though they were sometimes, mad though they sometimes were, could actually take part in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Perhaps his new address would be the place where he could actually get a footing with his International Society for Christian Consciousness.
Taryn,
Just start at, should I start at the top or?
yeah, at the top, chapter.
Swami Bhaktivedanta came to the USA and went swiftly to the archetype spiritual neighborhood in the New York Lower East Side and installed intact an ancient perfectly preserved piece of street India. He adorned a storefront as his ashram and adored Krishna therein, and by patience and good humor, singing and chanting, and expounding Sanskrit terminology day by day, established Krishna consciousness in the psychedelic, mind-manifesting center of America East. To choose to attend to the Lower East Side, what kindness and humility and intelligence! Allen Ginsberg from his introduction to the Macmillan Bhagavad Gita as it is. Prabhupada's new neighborhood. Ropa's new neighborhood was not as run down as the nearby Bowery, though it was certainly less than quaint. Right across from his storefront, a row of tombstones looked out from the somber, dimly lit display windows of White Wheatsner Brothers and Papper Memorials. North of Wheatsner Brothers was Sam's Luncheonette. Next to Sam's stood an ancient four-story building marked AIR, then Ben J. Horowitz Monuments, more gravestones, and finally Schwartz Funeral Home. On the next block, at number 43, was a worn canvas awning jutted out onto the sidewalk. Provenzano Lanza Funeral Home. Then there's the Cosmos Parcels Importers, and a few blocks further uptown, the prominent black and white signboard of the Village East Theater. Up a block, but on the same side of the avenue as the storefront, was the Church of the Nativity, an old three-story building with new blue paint and a gold-colored cross on top. The six-story 26 Second Avenue, its face covered by a greenish fire escape, crouched against the massive nine-story Knickerbocker fireproof warehouse.
Second Avenue was a main traffic artery for East Manhattan, and the stoplight at the intersection of Houston and Second pumped a stream of delivery trucks, taxis, and private autos past Prabhupada's door. From early morning until night, there would be cars zooming by, followed by the sound of brakes, the competitive tension of waiting bumper to bumper, the impetuous honking, then gears grinding, engines rumbling and revving, and again the zooming by. The traffic was distractingly heavy. At 26 Second Avenue, there were actually two storefronts. The one to the north was a coin laundry, and the one to the south had been a gift shop but was now vacant. Both had narrow entrances, large display windows, and dull paint. Beneath the matchless gift sign was a window, 6 feet square, that a few weeks before had displayed matchboxes decorated with photos of movie stars of the 30s and 40s. The sign Matchless Gifts was the only remaining memento of the nostalgic gift shop that had recently moved out. Below the shop's window, a pair of iron doors in the sidewalk hid stone steps to the cellar and boiler room. The wide sidewalk had been laid down in sections of various shapes and sizes at different times. Years passed. Certain sections had cracked or caved in, and a fine dust with tiny sparkling shards of glass had collected in the cracks and depressions. A dull black fire hydrant stood on the curb, midway between the entrances to the two storefronts was the main entrance to number 26. This door opened into a foyer lined with mailboxes and intercoms, and then a locked inner door opened into a hallway leading to the stairs or back to the courtyard.
To the left of the gift shop's window was its front door, a dark wooden frame holding a full-length pane of glass. The door opened into the long, narrow storefront, which was now completely bare. Just inside, to the right of the door, a platform extending beneath the display window was just the proper height for a seat. At the far end of the bare, dingy room Two grimy paned windows covered with bars opened into the courtyard. To the left of the left-hand window was a small sink fixed to the outside of a very small toilet closet, whose door faced the front of the store. A door on the store's left wall connected to a hallway that led into the courtyard. The courtyard the courtyard was paved with concrete geometric sections and encircled with shrub gardens and tall trees. There was a picnic table, a cement bird bath, and a birdhouse on a pole, and near the center of the courtyard were two shrub gardens. The courtyard was bordered north and south by high walls, and front and back by the two tenements. The patch of sky above gave relief. Overlooking the courtyard from the rear building of 26 Second Avenue was Prabhupada's second floor apartment, where he would now live, work, and worship. With help from his Bowery friends, he had cleaned and settled into his new home. In the back room, his office, he had placed against one wall a thin cushion with an elephant print cover, and in front of the cushion his unpainted metal suitcase, which served as a desk. He had set his typewriter on the desk and his papers and books on either side. This became his work area. His manuscripts bundled in saffron cloth, his his manuscript bundled in saffron cloth, his stock of Srimad Bhagavatams, and a few personal effects he kept in the closet opposite his desk. On the wall above his sitting place, he hung an Indian calendar print of Lord Krishna. Krishna, as a youth, was playing on his flute with a cow close behind him. Lord Krishna was standing on planet Earth, which curved like the top of a small hill beneath his feet. There were two windows on the east wall, and the dap- dappled morning sunlight filtered in through the fire escape and fell across the floor.
Thank you everyone for participating in that reading. What a wonderful description of what's going on right now at Second Avenue, 26 Second Avenue. I just love it when we read Prabhupada Lamrita. It just takes you to another world. Let's have some reflections before we end from the reading or in general from your week. Sia, go ahead.
I just had it's not very really much of a reflection, but I was thinking about a quote from from the beginning of chapter 17 where we started reading, and it talked about when Prabhupada was talking to Mike, Swamiji glanced over at the cartoons on the television and said, "This is nonsense," and then suddenly I realized that the television was on and that it was a nonsense, and so I got up very quickly saying, "Why, yes, it is nonsense," and turned it off. So I feel like it shows a lot because before when he had the cartoons on, he didn't realize that it was nonsense, or it was at the back of his mind. He didn't really put much attention to it. But as soon as Prabhupada said that, he realized that it was actually nonsense and he turned it off. So it shows a lot about the power of a guru and the power of someone who's more spiritually advanced than you. They make you have realizations that you never would have had yourself, you know? So that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for mentioning that. That was quite powerful. I was like, whoa, that's a bit shocking. And then I was like, huh. Maybe sometimes shocking is what we need to get jolted. Parth, go ahead.
So, just from reading about how Prabhupada was on the Bowery and then moving to a different place, Prabhupada really did not care what place he got. He just wanted to have a place that he could work, translate books, and worship. As it says in the chapter Breaking Ground, he had an office, and there he was using his desk as his metal suitcase because he doesn't care if he has a proper desk. He just wants a place that he can translate the books and help everybody to get that Krishna consciousness. So I just wanted to bring up that point that Prabhupada worked through all these conditions just so that we could all get this knowledge.
Thank you, Parth. That's my favorite part about reading Prabhupada Lamrita because we get to really see what Prabhupada had to to do to get what we have right now. Keshav?
Okay, Krishna. So I just wanted to say that when they were talking about Carl's wife, so she was like super antagonistic and she just wanted to do the opposite and she was super rude. But Prabhupada was always trying to help her because like he even if he would say because he was trying to help Carl and by extension he was trying to help her and it would she said like if I asked him he would tell me to give up everything and she I don't know maybe it was kind of in the back of her mind that this was bad that's why he was gonna ask me to give it up but I just was thinking that how devotees are always trying to help people even if the people are not like trying to take help. Like I was reading Salted Bread and then the Russian refugees they were in prison and they were getting beaten up. But they still were trying to teach Krishna consciousness to the other inmates. And they just were trying to teach Krishna consciousness everywhere. So I was just thinking that wherever a devotee is, they're always trying to help people. It's like a job description for them.
Yeah, it is one of the qualities of a devotee to be compassionate and merciful to others. And Prabhupada's a wonderful example of that. And I also found that interaction very interesting. I feel like we could take a lot from it. Thank you, Kesha, for recognizing that. Vivan?
Hare Krishna, everyone. So, I really liked the reflections from both Parth and Keshav, and I want to add something on. So, when they mentioned that a true Vaishnava true Vaishnavas are people that, at any risk, they would make sacrifices to improve the lives of other people in spiritual ways. And we can see that both in the example of salted bread and Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit. And I was thinking an attribute of that was that Prabhupada moved locations many times, if we notice. So in India, he was in Calcutta, then he went to Delhi, Vrindavan. He went to Delhi and Vrindavan, and it didn't matter where he was. Like in Delhi, Vrindavan, and then whenever he came to the US, he came to first Boston and then Butler, and then he came to New York City, and he moved houses within New York City. He lived on the Bowery, which wasn't a great place to live. There was derelicts everywhere lying on the street. Uh, yeah, it wasn't a very nice or opulent place for people to live. But that didn't matter to Prabhupada. Prabhupada just wanted any place that he could have some shelter. Most cases he slept on the ground, and that all didn't really matter to him. He just wanted some place where he could preach and translate his books for the benefit of everyone. And he didn't care whether that was the most opulent place in the world or like just the ground and he had to just sleep there. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Vivan. I think what Kesha was also mentioning in that incident where Prabhupada noted that he didn't really care whether she was pleased or displeased. He just wanted to preach Krishna consciousness. So he was very focused in a very specific way where if someone wasn't, we would call it, a ripe fruit or someone receptive to his message, he didn't really want to, waste his time there either. He wanted to leave the best impression he could, which was to not be, in their way. And so he tried finding another place, and he was so imperative about it. He didn't try like wasting time or anything. He was like ready to move on. Thank you for sharing that, Vivan. Tarni Radha?
I wanted to add that, like from I think Vivan's point, that he was like fine with like doing any like sitting anywhere, sleeping anywhere, having anything as a desk as long as he was able to like do what he had to do, and that actually kind of connects to what I'm currently like what so basically my dad he sometimes like whenever we can find time he reads Gita with me and he tells me his interpretation of it and he we like it doesn't we don't do it regularly because we're both very busy but today we just did it and we were on chapter 2 because we didn't start too far long ago and we were reading the verses about where Krishna says you should be equal in happiness and distress and then I that connects to what Prabhupada, how he behaves, because I remember earlier we read like a few weeks back, someone gave him like offered him a limousine or something to ride in, and he was like, and someone was like, "Oh, you're a Swami. How like why are you riding in a limousine? You shouldn't be having something so like extravagant." And he said, "Well, they're offering me, they're like whoever offered him the limousine, he said that they're offering me service, and service to Guru is service to Krishna. So I'm going to accept any form of service." And clearly he's not like used to the extravagant lifestyle. So he lived in the Bowery and all of that. And he was equal in happiness and distress, and like extravagance, and he was equal poised, like no matter the situation. And today I was like really thinking how, like when my dad was telling me, reading chapter 2 to me, I was really thinking like what would it look like to be equal in happiness and distress? But reading this, like now I understand what that really means. Like not like becoming too egoistic. Oh, I have like a limousine, people are offering me limousines and this and that, and like not becoming not be, change like not behaving arrogant or anything based off of the different circumstances of the current moment, because like everything, like Krishna says, this happiness and distress go by like the seasons. And so that just kind of connects to like currently what I'm doing in my life and what I learned from Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for sharing that, Taranirada. Arav?
Hare Krishna. I just like the point that the Mr. Gardiner he was like very flattered to get the Srimad Bhagavatam from Srila Prabhupada himself. I feel like that's a nice detail that they put in. Just shows even that Srila Prabhupada was so kind that he was giving a signed copy. That would be all these signed copies nowadays would be so good that they belong in a museum, and he's giving that out. So I felt that was really nice.
Yeah, that was awesome to hear how the real estate agent that they had ended up also chipping in for their rent, which is not very common. And so Prabhupada was very, very smart in that way as well, just recognizing those that would be able to help and engaging them in service. Thank you all for sharing your Taranirada, do you have something else? Or okay. Thank you all for sharing your reflections, and I think we had a wonderful UTM today. And that was all thanks to Manhar for that amazing prayer at the beginning, who put us on the right path. Oh, Chaitanya Baba, you're back. Do you want to introduce yourself if this is your first time? I'm not sure.
Hare Krishna. Yes. No. I had to step out for a call, but I've attended youth jams a couple years ago, but then
Okay.
recently I moved places. So I'm recently now in Boston, and so now I'm back on track in terms of my schedule and stuff. So I thought that okay, I should try to rejoin. So it's always so nice to read with all of you. And it was really nice. I know Parth and Vivan, we were together in Dallas. But yeah, it's really nice to read with all of you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back to Youth Gym, and we hope to see you very soon. And that goes for all of us over here. We'll be back next week at 3 p.m. Pacific time, and we'll be continuing with our program then. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.